Welcome to the Playing Books podcast.
It's great to be here.
Today, we are launching an episode into, well, one of the most compelling and, frankly, confounding biographies we've ever come across.
Absolutely.
We're talking espionage, aristocratic collapse, radical love, all swirling around one absolutely magnetic figure.
It's quite a mix.
The book is A Very Dangerous Woman: The Lives, Loves, and Lies of Russia's Most Seductive Spy by Deborah McDonald and Jeremy Dronfield.
And this podcast episode, it's our mission today, really.
Right.
We're not just, laying out historical facts. We're trying to get inside the operating system of Baroness Moura Budberg.
Right. How did she do it?
Exactly. I mean, she navigated the most transformative, most violent decades of the 20th century. Think about it, the Russian Revolution, the rise of communism, 2 world wars.
And she survived, even thrived sometimes.
By mastering what the book calls the ultimate art. Survival, but survival wrapped in seduction. Charm as a weapon, almost.
We're going to try and unpack the layers, aren't we? The layers of what she called artistic truth versus, well, dry fact.
Yeah, because that distinction is key to understanding her. She was a mystery even to people who thought they knew her best.
And when you read this book, you get this powerful sense that her entire life was a kind of performance. Often a performance designed simply to keep her alive.
And what's really fascinating, her self-curation, this image she built, it was so effective that even professional biographers struggled.
Andrew Boyle, right, the guy who exposed the Cambridge spies.
The very same. He couldn't pin her down. And Moura herself, she started a memoir years ago called Au milieu de la mêlée, In the Thick of the Fray.
This sounds about right for her life.
Totally. But guess what? Nobody ever saw it.
What happened?
It was burned, along with most of her other personal papers. Just before she died in 1974, she took her secrets with her.
Wow. That refusal to be defined, that's the core of her power, isn't it?
It really is. And the central mystery, the thing that obsessed, Western intelligence and the Bolsheviks, it revolves around that intense, incredibly torrid love affair she had.
With Robert Bruce Lockhart.
Right. The British diplomat, secret agent, in the middle of revolutionary Russia. And her possible role in the famous or infamous Lockhart plot.
The plot to overthrow the Bolsheviks.
That's the one. It's the ultimate double game, potentially. And her own philosophy, it's kind of our guide here. She once mused that artistic truth is more convincing than the empiric brand, the truth of a dry fact.
So we need to try and separate the truth she lived
from the magnetic, often self-serving truth she constantly manufactured. And maybe understanding that difference is useful today, too, in a world that's still pretty obsessed with ideology and image.
Okay, practical lessons in charisma, resilience, complex loyalty. Sounds like a plan. Let's dive in.
Let's do it.
All right, part 1. Let's set the stage for the life that became this impenetrable legend. We're starting just before the storm breaks, roughly 1916 to 1918, and exploring how Moura Zakharovskaya, as she was then, started flouting the conventions of her background.
Yeah, because her background is crucial. She definitely wasn't, a farmer's daughter, despite growing up on this huge estate, Briozovaya Rudka. Thousands of acres, forest, farmland.
But her father, Ignatiy Zakharovsky, he sounds like quite a character. Not your typical aristocrat.
Not at all. He was devoted to justice reform, criminal law, social issues, an outlier. And he was campaigning, warning his peers that an uprising was coming. He saw the peasant privations they were ignoring.
And the book paints a really stark picture of those privations, doesn't it? It's not just poverty,
It's desperate.
Yeah.
Malnutrition, freezing cold, lack of basic resources, so bad they were eating famine bread.
Which wasn't really bread at all.
No, it was rye husks, goosefoot weeds, moss, sometimes even tree bark, just anything to fill their stomachs. And you had this stark contrast with their family's wealth. That contrast must have shaped her worldview profoundly.
Ignatiy dies in 1905. And because he was maybe a bit unconventional.
Yeah, he left a smaller inheritance than expected. Apparently, he gave a chunk of his fortune to the Freemasons, which meant Moura and her mother were forced into what she called the dismal country life in Ukraine.
A bleak period, she called it. Stultifying.
Exactly. And that experience seemed to galvanize her. She decided then and there she would never be ordinary. She was going to escape.
And her escape route involved her sister.
Her twin sister, Asia. Moura visited her in Berlin in 1909. Asia had already kicked over the traces, eloped, caused a scandal. Moura saw that, maybe saw a path, and decided to aim higher, using her natural charisma.
Which led her to Count John von Benkendorf in 1911.
Right. And let's be clear, this was a pragmatic move. She married him for his wealth and position. She even admitted later she was never in love with him.
Brutally honest.
But John adored her. And she used that status, didn't she? Used it to get personal freedom and access to the absolute pinnacle of imperial society.
And the descriptions of that society, just wow. The court balls at Sanssouci Palace.
Mind-boggling, isn't it? 3,000 guests. Aristocrats dripping in gold and jewels.
And the heat, needing pads under their armpits for sweat.
While outside, bonfires burn to keep the hundreds of coachmen warm. The sheer unbelievable decadence. It was like something out of a movie.
And she's observing it all, seeing the cracks, maybe. Like the Tsar eyeing her up.
Staring down her bodice when she curtsied. And the Tsarina giving him this sharp look. The same Tsarina, already tangled up with Rasputin. You can feel the rot setting in, can't you? This glittering, fragile world, already compromised.
So fast forward a bit, 1916, war is raging, but Moura's retreated to the Benkendorf estate in Estonia, Yendel's Red House.
Yeah, a comfortable retreat. John's off fighting. She's fine with his absence, enjoying this insulated little bubble.
But the bubble bursts, February 1917.
Completely bursts. While Moura and her friends, like Meryl Buchanan, the British ambassador's daughter, are literally like frolicking in the snow at Yendel, Petrograd explodes.
And when they get back,
General Knox, the military attaché, he meets them, looks grave, but he kind of avoids telling them the full, terrifying truth straight away.
But the reality hits them soon enough. No cabs, no trams.
Everyone's on strike. They have to cram into the embassy car, feeling these, like, envious glares from the crowds. Then she learns about Znamenskaya Square, troops opening fire, 50 people dead.
That must have been a profound shock. Coming back holiday fresh and lighthearted, as the book says, into that.
It's the moment the old world died for her violently. The birth of Moura, the survivor, you could say.
And the violence doesn't stay in Petrograd, does it? It comes for Yendel.
Late 1917. Armed Bolshevik gangs, basically local bandits, taking advantage of the chaos, attack the house, looking for blood, for loot.
And Moura,
utterly terrified. She grabs her children, hides them in the gardens for 5 freezing hours, listening to the pigs shrieking as they're slaughtered in their sties. Horrifying.
So the bourgeoisie, her class, they now face the real terror, not just from mobs, but from the state, the Cheka.
Exactly. The gloves are off. The rules have changed completely, which perfectly sets the stage for her meeting with Robert Bruce Lockhart.
He arrives early 1918, part diplomat, part spy.
Sort of a special envoy, yeah. Sent to try and keep Russia in the war, or at least understand the Bolsheviks. And Lockhart himself, he's magnetic too, isn't he?
Definitely. Enthusiastic about Russia, loves literature.
But has this one debilitating weakness, women. And his career was already nearly derailed by an affair in Malaya with the Sultan's married ward.
So a pattern, prone to letting passion cloud his judgment.
Seems that way, which is crucial context for Moura. She, with her languages English, French, Italian, German, fluent, and this incredible charisma, she just bowled him over.
He said men adored her.
Instantly impressed. And their courtship, if you can call it that.
Those sleigh rides.
Secretive evening sleigh rides along the frozen Neva. Very romantic, very dangerous. Lockhart called it bourgeois courtship, like explorers on an ice floe. They're talking about radical ideas, like Alexander Kollontái's free love theories, titillating stuff for the liberal elite back then.
He saw her strength, too, didn't he? Her courage.
Yeah, her lofty disregard for all the pettiness of life and a courage which was proof against all cowardice. He saw something extraordinary in her. But the situation couldn't last.
February 1918, the British embassy pulls out.
Mostly. Captain Francis Cromie stayed as caretaker, but Lockhart decides he has to follow the Bolshevik government to Moscow to keep his mission going.
Leaving Moura behind in Petrograd.
Yep. Lonely, but still with John's money and apartment. That separation, though, that was just the calm before a much bigger storm. Okay, let's move into the real crucible now. 1918-1919, Part 2, The Fire of Moscow and the Cost of Loyalty. This is where the Red Terror really ramps up, and Moura's loyalties are tested to the absolute limit.
Lockhart's waiting for her in Moscow. Sounds like he was pretty tormented by this separation.
He was. The book says he was poring over her hasty, tantalizing replies. She finally joins him in April 1918. But Moscow is already becoming a terrifying place.
And he gets a tour from the Cheka.
You get this. Drzynski himself, the head of the Cheka, arranges for Lockhart's deputy, Yakov Peters, to show him the aftermath of raids on anarchist dens.
Yakov Peters. Wasn't he involved in that Sydney Street siege in London?
That's him, a Latvian Chekist, acquitted in that famous 1911 shootout. So Western intelligence already knew him as a violent revolutionary. Him giving the tour wasn't exactly a friendly gesture.
More like a warning, a display of power.
Exactly. Showing Lockhart what the Cheka was capable of, He sees these wealthy apartments, totally trashed, filth, slashed paintings, human waste on the carpets. Grim stuff.
But there was one image that really stuck with him.
The body of a young woman, maybe only 20, shot dead in a drawing room. And Peters, completely unfazed, just mutters, prostitutka. It showed Lockhart the Bolsheviks' capacity for screwing down a steel clamp on their cities. Terrifying, but maybe also in a dark way reassuring about their control. He wasn't sure.
And into this terrifying context steps Moura, playing her own complex games.
Oh yeah. During that same summer, 1918, while she's deep in this passionate affair with Lockhart, she's making trips between Petrograd and Kiev.
Doing what?
Offering her services as a spy against the Bolsheviks to the Ukrainian Hetmanate, run by General Skoropadsky.
The Hetmanate, that was the German-backed regime in Ukraine.
Right, precisely. So she's offering intelligence to the Bolsheviks' enemies, playing the social espionage card, listening to gossip, encouraging powerful men to talk too much because she's attractive and seems trustworthy.
But wait a minute, the book suggests she was also betraying them, feeding information back to the Bolsheviks?
That seems to be the implication. It's classic Moura. Where's the line between gathering intelligence and being a double agent? It's incredibly murky.
So it wasn't about loyalty to a side.
It looks like it was about loyalty to Moura, keeping yourself indispensable, valuable to everyone, no matter how dangerous that was, and then things get really personal and dangerous.
The pregnancy.
Late June 1918. She tells Lockhart she's pregnant. They even give the unborn baby nicknames Little Willie or Little Peter. And for Moura, this is a moment of truth. She realizes, I am caught at last, and for good. I will not be able to live with that thought. Not the thought of being pregnant, but the thought of being trapped, maybe.
So she comes up with this desperate plan.
Incredibly desperate. To protect the baby's legitimacy, which was socially vital back then, she decides she has to go back to Yandel.
And sleep with John.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To make it impossible to disprove he's the father. It's a horrible thought, but she saw it as necessary. And she wrote that this awful duty, not for a moment does it interfere with my decision. Not for a moment does it make me think, is it not better to give him up? Her determination to have Lockhart's child was absolute. She's made her choice.
While she's off on this incredibly risky trip, the political situation in Moscow just explodes.
Catastrophically. Murbach, the German ambassador, Lockhart's big rival, is assassinated in July.
And Lockhart gets blamed.
Immediately implicated. Anti-British feeling goes through the roof. He's suddenly in serious danger of being arrested.
Moura makes it back, though, after this harrowing journey.
6 days.
Oh.
Partly on foot, charming German guards to let her pass. She gets back to Moscow, safe, and moves in with Lockhart at Klebny Peruluk. But their reunion is short-lived.
Because the Red Terror begins.
In earnest.
Yeah.
After Uritsky is assassinated in Petrograd and Lenin is shot in August 1918, the Cheka unleash hell. Mass arrests, executions.
And they come for Lockhart.
Raid his apartment. The commander, Pavel Malkov, finds Lockhart still soundly sleeping. Which is bizarre, right? 3 armed men burst in, put a pistol inches from his face, and he's asleep. Exhaustion, recklessness, who knows?
Moura gets arrested too.
Later, yeah, along with her servants, Lockhart's staff. They become hostages, basically, along with hundreds of other Allied citizens swept up in the terror.
Lockhart must have been frantic.
Distraught. He goes pleading to Yakov Peters at the Lubyanka prison. And this is where the whole narrative, the artistic truth of the Lockhart plot, really takes shape.
Because Moura loses the baby while she's in prison.
Tragically, yes. Little Peter. And the story that emerges, the one promoted by Lockhart and by the Cheka later, is that Lockhart was essentially exchanged for Moura's release. A neat spy swap story. Very romantic.
But the book suggests it might be more complicated. That her release was maybe calculated by the Cheka.
Exactly. Peter's own official report, which came out much later, actually downplayed Lockhart's importance, portrayed him as sort of harmless, pathetic. This minimized the idea of a major spy swap, making his release seem less significant.
So Moura's release might have been a reward? Payment for services rendered?
It's possible. Maybe it cemented her value as a long-term asset to them. Releasing her while letting the romantic exchange story circulate could have been the perfect cover. She's free, but maybe more entangled than ever.
And how was she, psychologically?
Fragile. When she gets out, she panics. Writes to Lockhart, I am very depressed that you are so grieved. You probably care for me less now. Her biggest fear wasn't death, it seems, but losing his love. Shows you the vulnerability beneath that iron exterior.
Lockhart can't stay, though. Too dangerous.
He's terrified of execution, and he's financially dependent on his grandmother back in Scotland. He has to leave. They part in the dark at the railway tracks, October 1918. Heartbreaking.
But the tragedy isn't over. There's still John.
The final act of this awful period, April 1919. Moura is near the Finnish border in Terjokki. She writes to Lockhart, "I have started my divorce the day before yesterday."
And days later.
John is shot dead back at Yendel, heard 3 gunshots, went to investigate, and was killed. The circumstances are murky.
But John's family suspected Moura.
Immediately. The timing, her being nearby, the divorce proceedings. It looks suspicious. The book leaves it as an unresolved mystery, but that shadow of potential involvement just adds another layer to her dangerous legend.
Okay, let's move on. Part 3. Literary lifelines and new beginnings. This covers roughly 1919 to 1929. Moura seems to trade the world of spies and diplomats for the Russian intelligentsia, and crucially, finds a way out of Russia.
Yeah, she returns to Petrograd first, but the city the book describes is just bleak. Dying a natural death, it says.
Yeah.
Poverty, starvation, even cholera outbreaks.
Survival mode again?
Absolutely. Scrambling for fuel. Food so scarce they're eating oats and bran smash instead of bread. She was even worried about her dog Gary because shops were starting to sell dog meat. It's that desperate.
So she needs protection and opportunity. Enter Maxim Gorky.
Right. She meets him late 1918 or early 1919, probably through translation work she was doing. Gorky was huge back then, the most admired writer in Russia. And critically, he used his massive influence to shield aristocratic friends from Bolshevik persecution.
And he shielded Moura.
He saved her skin, basically.
Yeah.
She gets arrested again by the Czech in 1919. They clearly hadn't forgotten about her. But Gorky threatens to make a huge public scandal, and they let her go.
So she owes him.
Big time. And she moves into his strange commune at Kronverksky Prospect and quickly becomes his mistress.
Not exactly a conventional setup, though.
Far from it. It was this chaotic hub. Gorky was like baron in his manner, always surrounded by supplicants, often wearing this red silk robe and motley skullcap. Moura had to share a room with some young medical student they called the Molecule.
And Gorky's old flame was there, too.
Maria Andreeva, yeah. Adding another layer of tension. Andreeva wasn't just an ex-lover. She'd become a powerful figure, commissar of theaters and spectacles.
And the book suggests she was involved in some shady dealings.
Secretly selling off Russia's cultural treasures, icons, art to foreign buyers for cash. Apparently Gorky didn't know. So Moura is right there at the intersection of the cultural elite, Bolshevik power, and this kind of dark underground economy.
Prime position for observation and for crafting her own narrative. Which brings us to H.G. Wells.
Yes. Wells arrives in 1920 and, like so many men, is instantly captivated by Moura. She's appointed his official interpreter and guide.
And she immediately starts feeding him stories.
A ready pack of lies, as the book puts it. But these weren't just random boasts. They were strategic.
Like claiming she went to Cambridge.
Newnham College, Cambridge specifically, and claiming she'd been imprisoned 5 times by the Bolsheviks.
Which Wells just believed.
Hook, line, and sinker. He innocently repeated these lies back in the West as proof that the Bolsheviks weren't trying to fool him. He thought her fabricated suffering somehow validated his own political observations.
That's incredible, weaponizing her own story to influence a major Western intellectual.
It's peak Moura, elevating her status, giving Wells the drama he needed for his articles. It's around this time Gorky pays her that famous compliment. "You're not bronze, you're iron. Nothing in the world is stronger than iron."
And her reply.
Perfect summary of the times. "We're all iron now. Would you like us to be lace?" Survival over sentimentality.
But Petrograd, even with Gorky's protection, wasn't a long-term option. She needed out.
She needed an exit strategy.
Ugh.
And she engineered one through another cold, calculated transaction. The ultimate use of charisma as currency, maybe.
The marriage to Baron Budberg.
Nikolai Budberg, 1921. He was this aristocratic rake. A known duelist apparently killed a man and maybe even an old Okrana agent, Tsarist secret police.
And the deal was?
She paid off his considerable gambling debts.
In return for?
The title Baroness. And crucially, Estonian citizenship and a passport. The title was useful window dressing. The passport was her ticket to freedom.
And that title, Baroness Budberg, stuck with her for life, didn't it? Gave her that veneer of legitimacy in the West.
Absolutely, it was her brand. She then joins Gorky in exile, first Berlin, then Sorrento in Italy, and resumes her role as his sort of primary companion, his unofficial wife.
While setting her kids up in boarding schools in Dresden, but Britain was still wary.
Oh yeah, MI5 was suspicious from the start. She was refused a British visa initially.
Why? What did they suspect?
MI6 in Tallinn reported they thought she didn't really want to go to the UK, but just wanted the visa stamp to impress the Estonian authorities, to show she had connections. They knew she was maneuvering, even if they couldn't prove anything concrete.
And then, after years of silence, Lockhart reappears.
The ghost from her past. 1924. Lockhart's working as an advisor in London. He gets a phone call from a friend, Will Hicks, in Vienna. Hicks passes the phone over.
And it's Moura.
First time he'd heard her voice in 6 years. To the day, apparently, since that frantic call she made before leaving for Yendel back in 1918.
That's quite a coincidence. Or maybe not.
Who knows with Moura. Anyway, Lockhart, clearly still haunted by her, flies straight to Vienna.
They meet.
They take a walk in the hills. She tells him everything that's happened to her since they parted. It must have been an incredible story.
And Lockhart, how did he feel?
He admired her immensely. Wrote in his diary, "I admire her above all other women." But then the killer line. But the old feeling is gone.
Ouch. After everything.
Devastating for her, surely. She realized the passion, the thing they risked everything for, was gone on his side. Heartbroken, she suggests they avoid contact for 5 years.
And her diary entry about it, quoting Robert Burns?
The rocks, for me, have not melted with the sun, and never will. It shows that even under that iron exterior, the loss of that defining love left a deep, permanent wound.
All right, part 4. We're entering the London years now, roughly 1929 to 1946. Moura arrives and really cements her position, bringing all that complex survival skill and seductive charm right into the heart of London's literary and political scene.
The price of influence, we're calling it.
Yeah, she lands in England in 1929 and pretty quickly gets entangled with H.G. Wells again. It becomes this very public, yet kind of ambiguous on-again, off-again relationship.
And Wells wanted to marry her.
Persistently. Offered her marriage, which would have meant financial security, something she always seemed to need. But she kept refusing.
Why, if she needed the money?
Because marriage meant being tied down, being a wife, a housekeeper. It went against her whole MO of using her independence, her mystery, as leverage. She told her friend Enid McDonald quite bluntly, "I'm not going to marry him. He only thinks I am. I'm not such a fool."
So preserving her charisma as currency was more important than security. It seems so. And her life becomes this incredible balancing act. Like a love quadrangle, almost.
Okay, break that down. Who's in the quadrangle?
Well, there's Wells, obviously.
Yeah.
Her refuge, her public connection, source of some funds. Then there's still Gorky back in Sorrento. She's managing his literary affairs, keeping that vital Russian connection alive.
Okay, 2. Who else?
Konstantin Benkendorf. That's John's cousin. He apparently provided the passion, the intrigue. She even brought Wells to visit him once, which must have been awkward.
Wow. And number 4?
Paul Schäfer, a prominent German journalist, Berlin correspondent. MI5 definitely believed they were lovers, and Schäfer was a key figure in her intelligence network, it seems.
And the Schäfer connection really put her on MI5's radar, didn't it?
Big time. Because Schäfer was very outspoken against Stalin. He got barred from the USSR for his reporting, and their affair coincided with the horrific Holodomor, the famine in Ukraine caused by Stalin's collectivization.
So Moura is involved with someone directly opposing Stalin during a major crisis.
Exactly. And MI5 intercepted their love letters, translated them. While they were mostly romantic, they proved her direct link to high-level anti-Stalinist circles. It made her look like this central node connecting all these different worlds: literary, political, intelligence, Russian emigre.
Making her incredibly valuable, but also incredibly suspicious to everyone.
Precisely. Simultaneously indispensable and dangerous. Meanwhile, the emotional anchor of her past, Gorky, is being targeted by Stalin.
Stalin wants him back in Russia.
Yeah, luring him with promises of luxury properties, cars, status. Moura tried desperately to talk him out of it. She knew the risks, but Gorky was homesick, maybe naive about Stalin's true nature.
And Gorky goes back, which leads to that dark episode in 1936.
A really fateful turn. Gorky is dying. Moura gets this summons. A black limousine from the Soviet ambassador picks her up, flies her to Moscow in June, straight to Gorky's bedside.
And the crucial detail the book points out.
Her entry into the USSR wasn't stamped in her passport. She's essentially off the books, operating under the radar of official channels.
Gorky dies June 18th. She's clearly devastated.
Overcome with grief, apparently. Lay beside his body. His funeral was rushed. Ashes put in the Kremlin wall. And there's this striking image of Moura at the service, sitting right between Gorky's legal wife, Yekaterina, and his other long-term mistress, the powerful Maria Andreeva. A final, public declaration of her unique place in his life.
But the danger wasn't over for her, was it? Even with Gorky gone.
Far from it. The danger intensified. Later, her name turns up on an NKVD execution list.
What? Why?
Accused of being a participant in an anti-Soviet rightist organization, almost certainly because of her links to Sheffer and other anti-Stalinists.
How many people were on that list?
8 names. 7 of them were arrested and executed during Stalin's purges.
And more.
She was the only one living outside the USSR, in London. She survived.
Which raises a massive question. Why was she spared?
Exactly. The book speculates. Was it because she knew too much about Gorky's archives, maybe things Stalin didn't want revealed, a form of blackmail potential? Or was she simply still considered too valuable an asset to the Soviets, even with her questionable contacts?
Too useful to kill. It reinforces that idea of her being some kind of protected or at least tolerated agent.
It certainly deepens the mystery. So, fast forward again, World War II breaks out. Moura, ever the adapter, needs work, needs legitimacy.
She gets involved in propaganda.
Joins the Joint Broadcasting Committee, the JBC, in 1939, making pro-British propaganda for occupied Europe. Seems patriotic, right?
But MI5 wasn't convinced.
Not for a second. They flagged her immediately. Unchecked alien status, suspicious background, red flags everywhere.
And they put someone onto her.
Yonaklop Ustinov. Peter Ustinov's father, himself a Russian emigre who worked for MI5, he was assigned to investigate her.
Did he find anything?
Well, the scrutiny led to her dismissal from the JVC pretty quickly, June 1940. She got slapped with a red refusal mark on her police registration certificate.
What did that mean?
Barred her from any sensitive war work. And it nearly got her interned as an enemy alien. Serious stuff.
Yet, despite being officially suspect, she still had influence. With Lockhart.
Amazingly, yes. Lockhart, who is now a big cheese in the political warfare executive, running British propaganda, kept dining with her. She'd pass him tidbits of information.
So even if the Soviets had officially cut her off back in 1937, as MI5 suspected, she was still playing the information game with the British.
Always maneuvering, always finding a way to be useful or seen useful, and always needing money. Lockhart noted her expensive tastes around 1944, ordering triple gins before dinner, double brandies after.
That's social lubrication, the fuel for her charm. It didn't come cheap.
No, it meant she constantly needed income, constantly needed to leverage those connections with powerful, wealthy men. The performance had to be maintained. Right, final stretch, part 5. The enduring mystery and legacy. We're looking at the post-war years, from about 1946 up to her death in 1974. This is where her carefully constructed persona really comes into focus, alongside the relentless suspicion she still attracted.
It kicks off with H.G. Wells dying in 1946 if she'd married him.
She'd have been set for life, probably. As it was, he left her several legacies, including £3,000 for an annuity. Decent money then, but
not enough for Moura's lifestyle.
Not even close. As the book says, she chose liberty over wealth, but that annuity wouldn't cover her drinks bill, let alone everything else.
So she needed a serious income stream, and found it in Hollywood.
Sort of. She became head of the script department for Sir Alexander Korda's film company, earning over £2,000 a year, which was a very tidy sum back then, and she kept the exact amount secret.
Korda himself was quite a figure, wasn't he? Movie mogul, but also involved in wartime intelligence.
Yeah, shady dealings, connections everywhere. He'd been a courier for British security coordination during the war. So Moura lands right in the middle of this world of glamour, money, secrets, and influence.
And this is where she really perfects her role as the grand salonist, the ultimate hostess.
Absolutely. Michael Korda, Alexander's nephew, wrote about her dramatic entrances at parties. Bursting in, loud Russian accent booming. Dealing, give me just a little vodka and a bite of caviar.
Sounds like quite the performance.
Totally. Drain the vodka, light up a big cigar, deep throaty laugh fueled by heavy smoking, and then she'd hold court, collecting gossip, making connections. She was the center of the room. Charisma is currency in its purest form.
But behind the glamour, MI5 was still watching. Throughout the 50s.
Relentlessly. Her file just kept growing. They knew she was in contact with major suspects. Guy Burgess, one of the Cambridge spies, often turned up at her parties. James McGibbon, another contact, admitted passing info to the NKVD during the war.
So she's associating with known spies, or at least suspected ones.
Consistently. But could they ever prove she was actively involved? No. She created this incredible fog of ambiguity.
There's that quote from the MI5 report.
It sums it up perfectly, doesn't it? As to Moura, I am no further than before, somewhere between doubt and benefit of the doubt. They just couldn't pin her down.
So they decide they have to talk to her directly. Interrogate her.
By 1951, yeah. They realized it was a mistake they hadn't grilled her properly during her naturalization process years earlier. That's when she had lied about being in prison for 10 months because Lockhart always spinning the victim narrative.
Did they interrogate her?
It seems they planned to, but whether a full, formal interrogation happened is unclear. But what is clear is her next move, which is just classic Moura.
What did she do?
She has dinner with Kvap Ustinov, the MI5 guy who investigated her during the war. And she basically offers her services.
Offers to spy for MI5.
Pretty much. Pledged herself to report any actual or potential traitors to Britain. She was actively hoping to get on the MI5 payroll.
Wow. After decades of being suspected by them, she tries to become one of them.
It's audacious, isn't it? And it brings us right back to that central question. Was she just a survivor? Was she secretly working for the Soviets all along? Or was she just a freelancer, always looking for the highest bidder, playing all sides against the middle?
That's the challenge for us, for you listening, isn't it? To try and assess her loyalty. Was it purely self-preservation? Or did she have some deeper loyalty, maybe to her own idea of Russia or just to herself?
It's the core puzzle of her life. But in her later years, that carefully crafted facade started to show some cracks, mainly due to money problems.
She became one of those people who turned being broke into an art form.
Upper-class breed who turned being destitute into a profession, as the book nicely puts it, which led to that rather sad incident.
The shoplifting at Harrods.
1964. Caught stealing an umbrella, a spectacle case, small things. Got a hefty fine. The Grand Baroness reduced to petty theft. A glimpse behind the curtain.
And that memoir, Au milieu de la mêlée, did she ever write it?
Never. Publishers like Knopf and Hamish Hamilton offered advances, but she couldn't or wouldn't do it.
Why not?
Maybe she realized her secrets, her mystery, were her currency. To reveal them would be to destroy the very thing that made her so captivating. She chose to remain an enigma, preserving her own artistic truth to the end.
Her last big act of loyalty seems reserved for Lockhart, though.
Ironically, yes. He died in 1970. Moura, against his family's wishes, held a memorial service for him at the Russian Orthodox Church in London.
Just her.
She was the only one there, dedicating the service to their intense, doomed love affair, and specifically to the memory of little Peter who never was, a final poignant commitment to that defining narrative of her life.
And then she died in Italy in 1974.
Aged 82, having requested a personal requiem mass on the theme of contrition. Interesting choice, contrition. Makes you wonder what she felt contrite about.
So if we try and synthesize all of this, what are the big takeaways? What does Moura Budberg's life teach us?
I think the biggest lesson, connecting it all, is the immense practical power of personal narrative. She didn't just live her life, she authored it. She created her own reality, that artistic truth, and used it as leverage. It kept her alive. It bound powerful men to her. It kept intelligence agencies guessing for decades.
So her real skill wasn't espionage, not in the traditional sense, maybe?
Maybe not. Maybe her key skill was deploying charisma as currency, using her charm, her mystery, her connections to get what she needed: safety, money, influence, freedom.
It raises a really provocative thought, doesn't it? Here's this aristocratic woman embracing free love, mingling with communists, surviving the Cheka, surviving Stalin's purges, yet always suspected by the West.
Right. In an era absolutely defined by fierce political ideologies, communism versus the West, she seemed to transcend them, or at least navigate between them.
So did Moura Budberg ultimately prove that the only real loyalty, when push comes to shove, is loyalty to your own survival?
It's a challenging question. Maybe you can let that idea enhance your life as you think about your own loyalties, the complex roles you play, the narratives you create for yourself.
If you are as captivated by Moura's story, her incredible life, and all those amazing quotes as we were, we really strongly encourage you to get the book.
Definitely. It's a very dangerous woman. The Lives, Loves, and Lies of Russia's Most Seductive Spy by Deborah McDonald and Jeremy Dronfield. It's a fantastic read.
And we'd love to hear what you think. What's your analysis? Maybe engage with the author on social media if you can. Tell us, which of Moura's lies, which part of her artistic truth did you find most convincing or most chilling?
Yeah, let us know.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Plain Books podcast.
It's been fascinating.
If you enjoyed this journey into Moura Budberg's world, please do follow, subscribe, maybe share the podcast with someone else who loves history, intrigue, and complex characters.
Please do.
Until next time, keep reading, keep analyzing, and keep thinking.